It's Swedish, but unfortunately it's not legal everywhere for some reason, even though it has been shown that there's it's not got the association with mouth and esophagus cancer like some of the old sort of chewing tobacco did. What's going on, guys? Jacob, Sunday Lifters. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be talking about how current smokers can reduce their risk of lung cancer. This is an area I've been interested in for quite some time because unfortunately I am a smoker myself. I've tried quitting a couple of times and I still hope to do so one day. I'm certainly better at controlling when and how often I smoke now as opposed to a couple of years ago. But I would like to kick the habit completely. But while I am still a smoker, I wanted to know what I could do to reduce my risk of lung cancer. So this is sort of a collection of all the research I've done over the past couple of months that I sort of really knuckled down and sort of got into this. But before we get into the actionable steps you can take if you are a smoker to reduce your risk, if you could just drop this a like, a comment, and consider subscribing, guys. It really helps the channel grow and it does mean a lot to me. Now, lung cancer is the second most diagnosed cancer just behind breast cancer, but it is the cancer with the highest mortality rate when diagnosed. So potentially the most dangerous cancer you can get if you are diagnosed. Now, I'm not going to insult your intelligence by saying, oh, the best thing you can do to stop lung cancer is stop smoking, because you know that, I know that. That's not what this video is for. What we will talk about though is the amount of cigarettes you smoke in a day. An observational population-based cohort study done by the Copenhagen Center in 2005 showed that if you are a smoker who smokes more than 15 cigarettes a day, if you can just work towards halving that number, so maybe about 7 or 8 cigarettes a day, you can significantly decrease your risk of getting lung cancer. If you are really concerned about this and if you've been smoking for some time, what you can do is get a low dose CT scan if you can afford it, and you can actually get a sort of in-depth look at your lungs, and a qualified doctor can, you know, sort of spot early signs of potential lung cancer development. Now, genetics also play a big role. What we see is there is a type of gene called the LIMD1 or LIMD1 gene that actually seems to play a role in or have some kind of lung protective element to it. And the reason we've sort of drew that conclusion is because Nottingham University in the early 2000s sort of did some research on this, and eventually what they found out was people with sort of small cell carcinoma in their lungs, which is the most common type of lung cancer someone might develop, they didn't have very much LIMD1 gene expression. So what is theorized is if you have more gene expression from the D1, or the LIMD1 gene, you might be one of the people who is more protected from development of lung cancer. You can actually check your genetic profile with websites like 23andMe. There's some more accurate than others, but 23andMe seems to be a popular one. I can't give you a recommendation, unfortunately, because I've not done this myself. It is something I'm looking at doing in the future, but as of now, I can only tell you about the ones I've heard of. I don't know which are the best. Estrogen and estradiol seems to play some kind of role as well. Now, the rate of non-smoking women who develop lung cancer is 15 to 20%, whereas in men it's only 10%. The rate of lung cancer development in women who do smoke as opposed to men is about 1/2 that of men. So I'm just going to read off this data here, and you can sort of see this is quite an interesting finding. Receptors for the female sex hormone estrogen have been detected on lung tumours among women. Scientists studied populations of mice who underwent ovarectomies, which is the surgical removal of the ovaries. When treated with estradiol, they developed lung cancer. When treated with anti-estrogens, the process was actually reversed. Now, that is really interesting because it could potentially mean, and I'm not suggesting anybody do this, but it could potentially mean that through the antagonism of estrogen receptors, or taking an aromatase inhibitor, it could potentially protect smokers to some degree from development of lung cancer. And just as an add-on to that, if you are an older woman who is on HRT and getting sort of exogenous estrogen or estradiol, it might be worth, especially if you're a smoker, having this conversation with your doctor and looking at this research yourself, because you could be putting yourself in a lot more risk. And even if you're not a smoker, if you're just for being a woman, it sounds like you might be at more risk just because of the higher sort of expression of estrogen. So like I say, if you can control estrogen, maybe bring it down in a healthy way, still keeping it in range and with a doctor's oversight, of course, maybe this could be another way you could prevent or certainly reduce your risk of getting lung cancer. All I'll say is that, estrogen is a really important hormone, and if you drop it down too much, you're at risk of cardiovascular problems, bone health, neuroprotection, things like that. It's no coincidence that when women hit menopause, they are so much more risk of developing these sort of things, especially cardiovascular related diseases. Vitamins, you may want to consider avoiding the supplementation of vitamin A and E, which is quite ironic. Specifically, you want to avoid the carotenoid version of vitamin A. It seems the beta carotenoid version of vitamin A is cheaper to put in supplements, so that's what a lot of manufacturers do. However, it has to go through a sort of enzymatic process in our body where the carotenoid version of the vitamin A is either turned into sort of vitamin A or retinol. Any sort of form of vitamin E, it comes in sort of 5 forms, but they all seem to have the same effect. Both the sort of beta carotenoid and the vitamin E seems to actually increase the incidence of cancer in people with sort of high chronic inflammation, basically high levels of inflammation chronically, i.e. smokers. If you want to check out some of these studies yourself, I will link them down below. You can view the alpha tocopherol beta carotene study, I think that's how you say it, or the beta carotene and retinol efficacy trial, both of which I will link below. A 2005 meta study also found that vitamin E increase the chances of all-cause mortality in those who supplemented it. That research has actually made me reconsider my stance on multivitamins as well, something that I have historically always told people to consider getting. And the final one is where you live, and there's 2 things to say on this. 1, moving out of the city and getting somewhere with more rural areas out in the countryside. The air is sort of cleaner, there's not as many factories, all the sort of things you get in the city that can potentially pollute the air. You're breathing the heavy traffic, all the different sort of businesses and waste that they make. And number 2, this one's really interesting, and it's new research. It actually shows that the higher you are above sea level, it seems to reduce a smoker's risk of getting lung cancer. For every 1,000 meters you are above sea level, it seems to decrease the risk of you getting lung cancer by about 13%. So if you're in my country, the UK or England to be specific, you might want to look at moving somewhere like Buxton, or more specifically, a small village within Buxton called Flash. Flash is the highest village in the UK. Still, it only stands 463 meters above sea level, so it's not even 1,000 meters. So if 1,000 meters reduces your risk by 13%, it's not necessarily the case, but it may be safe to assume that 463 is about half of that. So maybe you're reducing your risk by about 6.5%. Now, if you move to somewhere like Leadville in Colorado in the USA, that is about 3,094 meters above sea level. So you're reducing your risk by about 39%, which is quite significant. I want to credit this research to Leo Longevity, and I'm going to link his video down below for you guys to watch. It goes over this in much more detail. And he also covers some interesting sort of race related smoking information as well. I didn't include that in this video just because I feel a bit unqualified to talk about it, but Leo does go over that very well. But this is incredible research, and I've not heard anybody speak about it before him, so full credit. And the final thing I will say on this is try and swap the habit. Consider going on a vape just because they are slightly better, although some studies now are showing that if you smoke cigarettes and vape at the same time, or do both sort of interchanging between the two, that is actually worse than just picking one. I don't know why, and maybe if you guys are interested, I'll do a video on that as well, but there is some new research showing it. But you could look into nicotine patches and also snus, which is a sort of non-fermented oral tobacco pouch you put in your mouth. It's Swedish, but unfortunately it's not legal everywhere for some reason, even though it has been shown that there's not got the association with mouth and esophagus cancer like some of the old sort of chewing tobacco did back in the day. But if it is an option for you to get it, you could try that. I know for a lot of people the habit is the sort of hand to mouth thing. Consider chewing gum, consider getting a pen that you can just chew on if that's your thing. One thing I do, and kind of want to stop that as well, but it can help sometimes, is biting my nails. But you know, just if you can, try and find something that, if nothing else, just helps you achieve point one, which is reducing the amount of cigarettes to about 7 or 8 a day. If you're on more than 15, you know, just work towards getting it lower and lower over time. So that's all I'm going to say on this video, guys. Sorry it's a bit of a long one, but if you did stick with it to the end, it's hugely appreciated. If you could just drop it a like, a comment, and consider subscribing, hugely appreciated, and it does help the channel grow. If you want to check out my socials, I'm on Facebook and Instagram at Sunday Lifters, and you can also get in touch on email at sundaylifters@gmail.com for coaching and workout plans, and for potential partnerships. Thank you again for sticking about to the end, guys, and I'll see you back here again very soon.